If we start with the easiest question of all, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, sure. Well, my name is Jim Molenaar, and I'm running to be the Collier County Clerk of the Court. I've been an attorney for 25 years. I moved to Naples to raise a family because it's a great place to live, work, and play, as your endorsement and your motto says. Moved here in 2006. I have two children. One is 8 and one's 14, and they go to public school. One goes to public school and one goes to private school, and we just absolutely love it here. So that's how I got to Naples. I've been a lawyer for 25 years, most of which have been in Florida. I was a prosecutor for I think about 7 or 8 years down in Collier County, and then I worked for Dwight Brock at the Collier County Clerk of the Courts for the past 6 years. So that's where I am today.
Very good. And what motivated you to run for office?
Well, I have the training and the experience. I have a law degree. I have a master's degree in information technology, and a lot of almost everything that the clerk does nowadays is digital. And then I knew that I would be looking forward to doing a job such as being the clerk, and I went and got an MBA from the University of Florida. Dwight Brock hired me on as an internal audit manager. He mentored me. He trained me to fill a position. And then in 2016, he told me to start telling people that I was going to run. And so I did start telling people. And then he got sick. So that really didn't work out. I didn't keep doing it because I kind of looked classless. But, he encouraged me to do it. So here I am today fulfilling that promise.
Good. Thank you. Jenna?
Yeah, can you talk, you've worked in the clerk's office for a long time. What do you view the role of the clerk of courts, and especially as it pertains to business and the community?
Well, I'm going to give you, I think they say the clerk has somewhere between 1,100 and 1,400 jobs. I will spare you the details of going over each one of those, but I'll give you 5 what I consider overreaching roles. The first is the clerk of the court, kind of what the name sounds like. You're the clerk for the courts and for the judges. So in this role, you take care of the jurors, you take care of the jury box, you take care of all the court records. So that's very simple. The second one would be the clerk as recorder. So the clerk is charged with the responsibility of recording all land records, divorce records, anything that you'd want to have attached to any real property which you would own. So I consider that role number 2. Role number 3 is clerk to the board. And there you're responsible for making sure that all of the county commission contracts are recorded in the official record. We record the minutes. There's a court reporter, and she types and keeps track of all the minutes of all the records of all the board meetings. So that's clerk to the board. And there's also the job of the auditor, and that's to make sure that there's a valid public purpose for each dollar that the county spends. I'll just back up just a tiny bit. Remember, in October, the tax collector has received all the property taxes. The tax collector then turns that money over to the clerk. And then throughout the year, the Board of County Commissioners, which would be the third leg, spends the money. So the role of the auditor is to make sure that there's a valid public purpose of what the board is spending, and to make sure that the expenditures are legal. Make sure we're buying, not swimming pools for commissioners, but we're in fact buying sidewalks, pipes, paying for air conditioning, paying for water, all of those things, and make sure that it's accurately being paid. We're not paying too much for it. And then the final role, which I would say is role number 5, is the clerk as comptroller. So several years ago, they changed it to the clerk of the courts and comptroller, because in Tallahassee, the people there felt it was very important that the clerk get recognized as the comptroller of the county. So here we keep track of all the books of accounts and all the money, all the funds, all the dollars that is collected in and spent throughout from the beginning of the year until the end of the year. And then we keep those in. So that's the role of the clerk in about 4 minutes. I hope that answers your question.
Oh, good job. Appreciate that.
Sort of to piggyback on that, what do you see as, if you're elected, the issue that you would like to change, or maybe the most pressing issue in the clerk's office right now?
Well, certainly I think keeping track of the court files is very important, and the clerk as comptroller is very important. So one of the areas I see that can be improved on is the clerk as the auditor. In the past 2 years, I think there's only been one follow-up audit report issued. The average budget for those employees that work there is over 500,000, it's close to $530,000 a year. And in a typical audit shop, they call it an audit shop, but we have auditors working. There's usually 5 or 6, and you would expect each auditor to complete 2 to 3 audits per year. So I would certainly like to see more auditing done, being able to document things that are done correctly, because that helps the systems of the county. And if there are any things that are weaknesses, strengths, or risks, we certainly want to tell the county manager and the county staff how to improve them. It's not a game of gotcha, we found something wrong. It's a game of let's do this better so we have better accountability of our tax dollars, and the taxpayers and the people that live here feel secure in knowing that their money is being watched. So that's one area that I would certainly take a really hard look at improving.
Yeah.
Good.
You mentioned the clerk to the board and the relationship with the county commissioners. What do you see is what role and what should that relationship be like between the clerk and his or her staff and the county commissioners and their staffs?
I really like that question. So as I see it, and as I was trained, the clerk of the court is not to make policy. If I want to make policy, then I should be running for one of the commission seats, should be running for District 79 or wherever else is open right now. The clerk of the court is simply there. It's really a ministerial task to make sure that the papers get in the proper files in the court system, and then to make sure there's a valid public purpose, make sure that if a county vendor does a work, make sure the work has been done to the specifications in the contract. So in summary, I would audit to the contract. If you don't like the contract, that's not the role of the clerk. You might be able to say, hey, is this really what you want to do, commissioners, before it's signed? But once it's signed, your job is really just to make sure the payments are made, make sure they're legal, make sure there's a valid public purpose. If I, for example, with FGCU, if I don't think bringing an entrepreneurial program into the county is a good idea, that's in a public board meeting, that's not my place to be making those statements as clerk. So I hope that makes it clear as to what my position is.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask maybe one last question here. I mean, we'll do a final question if there's anything that you want to say, but just in terms of working with the business community, how would you see the role of the clerk and the business community, and kind of how you would work with them or serve them?
Well, as the president of the Chamber of Commerce, that's your title, right, Chairman or President, I guess? President, right? Okay. I can tell you that over the past month and a half, I'm sure you've seen signs going up with my name on them. I have spoken to many people who stopped me alongside the road. I've also had people beep at me, and everybody's been very nice. But let me tell you, I have spoken to so many vendors who want to go back to doing work with the county. I have a Master's of Business Administration from the University of Florida. I strongly believe in entrepreneurship, and I strongly believe in what we call local vendor preference. It's much more expensive for us to not have local people complete jobs. They're choosing not to do this because they don't get paid. I've spoken to, I don't know, not hundreds, but 20 scores of people who will not bid on county projects, or they'll only do the work as a subcontractor because they're afraid that if they don't get paid, they're going to have to sue, and that's going to cost them money and time that they just don't want to invest. So my goal is to get them paid. If there's a problem, I want to know about it immediately. As soon as they sign the contract, I will invite them to come in, go over the contract. As an attorney, I can read a contract. I can explain to them and say, this is what we're going to be auditing to. It's going to be consistent. I'm not going to ask you for time cards one month. I'm not going to ask you for invoices from your suppliers another month. I'm going to give you the criteria up front so you know exactly what I'm going to be asking for. Unless something seems a little suspicious or a little hanky, then of course, but I'm going to tell people right up front that something seems off, I'm going to ask you for more. But otherwise, it's going to be routine. With COVID, it's important to me that we have local vendors working. It's important to me that we have local employees and residents working here. And I don't want to get in affordable housing, but I want people living here to get paid and have food on the tables. And I want them to know that every Friday they're getting their paychecks so their family can plan. Husbands or wives or spouses or children know that they can go on vacation, they can buy their books, they can pay their tuition, they have food on the table, give their tithes and offerings if that's what they choose to do. So I just want things to be consistent overall and no game playing, none of the gotcha stuff. I just want it to be fair and open and transparent would be the best word for it for everybody. County commissioners know what I'm going to be looking at, the county attorney knows, and the vendors. So I think that answers your question.
Very well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
What can I ask, as Michael said, that, sort of our last question, why should the average person and average business person vote for you?
Well, I have the training and experience. I have the education. I was mentored and trained by Dwight Brock, who had the job for about 25 years. I have the trust of the community. I'm a former law enforcement officer. I certainly believe that Collier is the best place to live, work, and play. I choose to raise my family here. I'll be honest with you every single day. If anybody wants to come with me, they're welcome to come into my office. They can spend time with me. I'll be more than happy to share anything. And I'm involved in the community. As you know, I've been in Leadership Collier. I was a leader of GAIN in 2013. So I have really invested a lot with the chamber and with everybody in the community. I've gone out of my way to meet as many people as possible. I can tell you the people in Immokalee, down to Everglades City, Ave Maria, and of course the city of Naples. All the people I've worked with over the years. And I've served on the ethics committee for the Collier County Bar Association. I'm an active member in the bar, and the Inns of Court, which is an ethics group of about 75 attorneys as well. So to me, ethics is important, honesty is important, and hard work is important. And I believe I know I meet all of those criteria.
Very good.
I
Well,
think
thank you,
that's-
Jim, very much. Really appreciate you taking time and doing this with us. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign off?
No, I just really appreciate your time and you taking the time to, and I know you don't give endorsements, but if you ever think about giving an endorsement, I'd certainly like one, or you can at least talk me up into your friends and colleagues. I would certainly appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate that. And certainly as we post this information, it's an opportunity for our members to really get to know you, know the things that you're standing for, and know what differences that you'd like to be able to make as someone running for the office. So I appreciate it. Thanks again for taking the time. Thanks for talking with Jen and I.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Good
it.
luck.
Thank you.
Take
Goodbye.
care.
Bye.
Bye.